Hello, hello, Internet. I am doing a review today of SuperMutant Magic Academy by Jillian Tomaki. I picked this up at the local library, and it is actually quite interesting. But, I think I have some interesting thoughts about it. I'm not sure this book is 100% interesting. But I want to set up a stage, because it's a comparative review of teenage comics, right? And so I want to start with kind of my introduction, personally, into teenage comics, and that was with not completely introduction, but Young Justice here, right, by Peter David, and he had the series that kind of tied together all these teen sidekicks from the 90s and early 2000s. Here's Wonder Girl's original costume. This is Cassie Sandsmark. This is an original creation, The Secret. Of course, you've got Superboy, Connor Kent, you've got Impulse, Bart Allen, you've got Tim Drake Robin in the best Robin costume ever, right? And this was sort of my introduction, so to speak, into teen superhero comics. Now, the fun thing about this is that in these, one of the things Peter David did awesome was that they were great superhero stories, they were also great comedy stories, and they were also great with just touches of day in the life kind of stuff in it, and it was just fun. It was just 100% fun, but it was a lot of action, a lot of good quality superhero content too. So if you were into the superheroes and you're into the comedy, you'd really love this. The great thing about it was, in their own comics, Tim Drake was total straight man. Connor Kent, total straight man. Impulse, kind of silly in his comic. But in it became a comedy team where Tim was the straight man, the one who had the most sense, the one closest to being grown up. He was a little bit of a rapscallion, a little bit of rebel, Connor was, and then Impulse was almost a Peter Pan. And they kind of played off of each other into this thing. And then when they brought the girls in, it was a whole different dynamic, but it was also, it was a contagious dynamic, but it added on to it. Because the girls thought the boys were silly, but they were also friends, and it was just tons of organic growth, and Peter David did an awesome job with these back in the day. Okay? But recently, and these were a lot of the tone was a lot of the inspiration that myself and Chris Lawton took when we created Forces of Good and Evil, our webcomic, which is available on our website, forcesofgoodandevil.net, and you can go check it out and see how we did with combining the silly and the serious. But that was one of the things that we really wanted to do. But I recently just read two modern kind of takes on that whole trope, if you will, right? Kind of jokes on the whole medium, not jokes, but different takes on it. And one is My Hero Academia, which is basically it's a love letter from Japan to American comics, and the other is the SuperMutant Magic Academy, which for most of it is a giant thumbs up to America. I'm sorry, not thumbs up, middle finger up to America. In the conventions of, not America as a country, but in the conventions of American superhero storytelling. And so, I want to go ahead and talk about that just a little bit here. So, SuperMutant Magic Academy was done by Jillian Tomaki. It was started as a web comic that then got printed by Drawn and Quarterly. And I'm just going to flip through a little bit, kind of show some of the art style off. Now, the setup is that it is a magic school full of people with sometimes sort of kind of superpowers, sort of kind of magic mix over. Some of them are human-like, some of them have a giant head, some of them have cat heads, some of them have lizard heads, but they're sort of kind of people. This guy's got a weird birthmark or something. And they go through, and it's a boarding school, they've got uniforms, that whole business. There's the principal is a witch, and that kind of stuff, so it kind of makes fun of Harry Potter. It kind of makes fun of superheroes. Kind of makes fun of the X-Men. Kind of makes fun of school. And for most of the thing, it's just it's the kind of non-jokes that people talk about, right? The closest thing you have to jokes is you have this character, and I cannot remember their characters' names because they're distinct, but they're also very forgettable, right? They're distinct within the context of the story. You know who's who. But they're very forgettable. This cat-eared girl, and this is a lesbian gal who's got a crush on her cat-eared friend, and her cat-eared friend does not swing that way, but appreciates her. And whole whole thing. And that's kind of the closest you have to a joke is this ambiguously or non-ambiguously gay kind of thing, that where she's trying to reconcile her friendships with her sexual attraction. It's as close as you have to that in there. And there are a few things where you have like the sports dude Cheddar, who just doesn't care about school and doesn't care about all this stuff, and he's kind of a jock but also kind of doesn't care. And you have this gal who's an artist, who's just about upending conventions, which I honestly, like I said, I think the whole book is really about upending conventions, but with this one, it just sort of garish. It's mostly black and white. The art is very crude, but that doesn't necessarily take away from the overall piece of it. But it's huge. I mean, just take a look at this thing. It's enormously large, and but with it, it's just, for most of it, it's just laborious. There's a few chuckle moments where it's just kind of ha-ha, whatever. There's just, for the most part, there's just nothing going on. It's just about people wallowing in their nonconformism, and it's basically like a YouTube comment section transformed into a comic, right? And I didn't like it for the most part. But what she did do, I will say this much, and here's the thing that was interesting. The book is very well printed. I do want to point that out. Here's another one of the mutants, kind of alien-looking guys to point out there. And they a lot of the characters do. I mean, there are some fun stuff. There's these bits with this everlasting boy who just shows up through a thing, and just ways of being destroyed but not dead or coming back. Like here you have him being just bones, but you'll see him again later like nothing ever happened. He's this eternal character. In the course of all of these stories that it brings up there, they do develop distinct characters, right? Even though they are, I don't care for it personally. She did a good job of bringing up these distinct characters and stuff. And here's the part where it matters. Like, there are several of the things that move up here, move into the idea, move up toward prom, right? And when prom comes, there is let me see if I can find where that starts, because I was going to bookmark it and I didn't. When prom starts, you have and actually I'm going to jump here to the back. They have one of these yearbook kind of things that kind of talks about where they went. Frances, the artist, Marcia, the token lesbian, Wendy, the pretty girl who likes the token, who's friends with the token lesbian, and Mrs. Grimdorf, the witch professor. So there you go. So they're getting it, but Marcia cuts out on prom. She doesn't care. All the other girls go and have a wonderful time at prom. And when they do that, here's the thing that during prom, they're all having a wonderful time. Marcia cuts out, and she goes to hide out in this cave, right? And Cheddar comes by there, and they meet and talk. Outside of the social construct, they get to know each other as real people. And Marcia, who had always thought Cheddar was just a dumb jock, realizes that since he doesn't care about all this high school nonsense, maybe he's kind of interesting after all. And they have this conversation. And meanwhile, all their friends are bugging out there at prom, having this great old time. Whoa. I missed this bit. So, it is... So here, and this is actually the end of the book, and I want to say how much the art steps up toward the end of the book, where they actually start building a narrative. See, before it's all just disconnected nonsense. It does have a chance for those characters to showcase themselves, so that this last prom piece that is actually a story seems to matter. And in the middle of this cave, all of a sudden they are, and I don't want to spoil the whole thing, because, I mean, actually, I don't know, maybe I will. This cat character who had been in the first part of the book shows up again, turns out to be some sort of mystic emissary, right? And calls Marcia and Cheddar to this grave mission for some reason. And they don't want any part of this, they run off, but then the cat attacks them, and one of the things that happens here is that Cheddar ends up trying to rescue Marcia, who has been swallowed by the cat beast, right? And that's the whole thing. And then suffice to say, they get out of the situation and everything is okay. And then there's a moment at the end of the book where Marcia and what's their name have a parting moment. That's the end of the story, right? I'm not gonna get into that too much on that. But it's weird because, like I said, there's so much of nothing in this book, but it does build up to a something. And I can't say that Jillian Tomaki is some sort of talentless hack. I don't care for the story that she put together, but it is in fact a thing. And if you're somebody who's, never grew out of that 90s ennui, right? If you think that's the coolest thing ever, then you might like SuperMutant Magic Academy, and it might be worth your time. But much better, I think, holy crow, is My Hero Academia. Now, I got these at about the same amount of time. This is the first manga I have ever read. And the thing about it is that it still has a lot of, and I've seen some anime and stuff, so I'm not totally just familiar with some Japanese conventions, right? Sorry, I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. I'm not totally pleased with some Japanese conventions, but I'm telling you that, like, this is a love letter to American superhero comics. It uses so many of the same kind of tropes. It is equal parts silly and dramatic. All Might is what Superman should be. And I'm telling you guys, this is such a great book. If you haven't taken the jump to go check out My Hero Academia for whatever reason, you are missing out. This is great stuff. And of course, it's written, of course, and it's all about Midoriya. I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Izuku Midoriya, right? And how he shows himself to be worthy of being a super, even though he's just some kid, right? Who didn't have it going for him. But because of his noble spirit, All Might bequeaths his power to him. And it is just, and then it's the story of him continually pushing himself to be better and better and better, and to become worthy of this mantle that he's been offered, and how he tries out for and gets the superhero school thing, and it's just such good stuff. And it plays on these American tropes, these average ideas, these cliches of American superhero comics in a way, in Western superhero comics, in a way that is just a love letter to them. And I just think that is an awesome thing. Definitely worth the time. I've gone 13 minutes. I would not recommend, unless, like I said, unless your favorite movie is Rami and Michelle's High School Reunion, or even better, that one, High Fidelity. Unless High Fidelity is your favorite movie ever, you're probably not going to dig on this, right? But if because and honestly, it's not like, I don't want to get into that. Never mind. But if you like standard superhero comics, if you ever read and liked old school Young Justice, you're going to love My Hero Academia. Now, the other fun thing about My Hero Academia, one side note, I'm going to close on this, right, is that one of, I just realized my camera shifted in the middle of it from profile. That's going to be really confusing. I'm sorry about that. I didn't think it could do that. Anyway, one of the things that My Hero Academia really helped with all of this for me was that I got a chance to revisit a couple of my favorite little projects, the indie projects, My Hero Magademia by Mark Pellegrini and Tim Lim, which is a pastiche of the Trump administration and of My Hero Academia, and it is a flawless pastiche. It is just great satire. All the sequel, All Might, First Term Part 2. And they're coming up with the third, the Magalorian, which will be coming up in this spring. But I'm telling you, man, that they know how to put together a book. It's just dynamite, just dynamite. Anyway, and I thought I really liked this book on its own, but after reading My Hero Academia, I have so much more appreciation for what Tim and Mark did with Wall Knight. It's so funny stuff, and it's perfect pastiche. But and even without that, if you don't like the satire thing, whatever, you got to read My Hero Academia. If you like superhero comics, it's just great stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been informative, and 2 books that I really wanted to focus on. The other stuff's just ancillary for background information. But yeah, there you go. That's hopefully the title card. Have a good one, guys.